The fluorescent lights of the Chicago Public Library flickered as Maya Torres wiped down the last table in the children's section. It was 9:47 p.m. on a Tuesday, and her shift had started at 6 a.m. Her back ached, her feet throbbed, and she still had to pick up her 7-year-old daughter Emma from her neighbor Mrs. Chen's apartment before midnight. Maya was 32 but felt 50. The dark circles under her brown eyes told stories of sleepless nights, double shifts, and dreams deferred. She pulled her long black hair into a messy bun and grabbed her worn backpack. Inside were 3 things: a half-eaten sandwich, a library book about learning Italian, and Emma's permission slip for a school trip she couldn't afford. As she walked through the cold Chicago streets, Maya's phone buzzed. It was a text from an unknown number about a job opportunity. Room attendant needed at the Grandeur Hotel. Interview tomorrow 10 a.m. She stared at the message. The Grandeur was the most luxurious hotel in downtown Chicago, a place where politicians, celebrities, and billionaires stayed. Maya had walked past it 100 times but never imagined working there. The next morning, Maya dropped Emma at school and took 2 buses to reach the Grandeur. The lobby took her breath away. Marble floors gleamed under crystal chandeliers. Well-dressed guests glided through like they owned the world. Maya felt small in her clean but faded dress, the nicest thing she owned. The interview was quick. The HR manager, a thin woman with sharp eyes named Patricia, barely looked at her resume. "We need someone who can start immediately. You'll clean rooms, restock supplies, stay invisible. Guests don't want to see staff. Can you do that?" Maya nodded. "I can do that." Patricia handed her a uniform. "You start tomorrow. 6th floor. Don't be late." Maya's first week was brutal. She cleaned 15 rooms a day, each one bigger than her entire apartment. She scrubbed toilets, changed silk sheets, and removed champagne stains from carpets that cost more than her annual salary. The other cleaning staff were kind, mostly immigrant women like herself who spoke Spanish during breaks and shared stories of struggle. On Friday afternoon, Maya was assigned to the penthouse floor, reserved for VIP guests. Her supervisor warned her, "These guests are different, demanding, rude. Keep your head down and work fast." Room 1847 belonged to a CEO named Richard Blackwell, in town for a major business conference. Maya had seen his face on the business channel at the library. He was tall, silver-haired, always wearing expensive suits and an expression of permanent annoyance. She knocked softly. "Housekeeping." "Come in," a sharp voice answered. Maya entered with her cleaning cart. Richard sat at the desk with papers spread everywhere, talking loudly on his phone about stock prices and mergers. He didn't acknowledge her existence. To him, she was furniture. As Maya worked, she couldn't help but overhear his conversation. He was speaking in English, then switched to Spanish to talk to someone in Mexico, then to French with someone in Paris. Maya understood every word. She spoke all 3 languages fluently, having grown up in a multilingual household in Los Angeles before life fell apart. Richard ended his call and turned to her suddenly. "You," he said, snapping his fingers like calling a dog. "There's a stain on the bathroom mirror. Fix it." Maya nodded quietly. "Yes, sir." She was cleaning the mirror when Richard's phone rang again. This time he spoke in Italian, discussing a confidential deal with aggressive undertones. Maya froze. She understood everything. He was planning to acquire a family-owned restaurant chain in New York through intimidation tactics, exploiting legal loopholes to force the owners into bankruptcy before buying their business for nothing. Maya finished quickly and left, her heart pounding. She knew things she shouldn't know. That evening, as Maya picked up Emma from after-school care, she tried to forget what she'd heard, but the words haunted her. Those restaurant owners were probably families like hers, working people who'd built something from nothing, about to lose everything to a man who saw them as obstacles. Emma hugged her tight. "Mama, you look sad." Maya smiled and kissed her daughter's forehead. "Just tired, baby. Just tired." But Maya wasn't just tired. She was angry, and somewhere deep inside, a fire was beginning to burn. 2 weeks passed, and Maya became invisible at the Grandeur, exactly as they wanted. She moved through hallways like a ghost, cleaning up the messes of the wealthy, while her own life remained a constant struggle. Richard Blackwell extended his stay. Every day, Maya cleaned his suite while he conducted business in multiple languages, never once looking at her face. She was beneath his notice, a servant who existed only to serve. One Thursday afternoon, everything changed. Maya entered room 1847 during her usual time slot. Richard was meeting with 3 men in expensive suits. Business partners, discussing the restaurant acquisition she'd overheard weeks ago. The deal was moving forward. The Costello family, who owned a beloved chain of Italian restaurants across New York, were being crushed by mysterious health code violations, frozen bank accounts, and legal fees they couldn't afford. Maya worked silently, emptying trash bins and replacing towels. The men spoke freely in Italian, assuming no one could understand. "They'll sign by next week," one man said, laughing. "They have no choice. We've destroyed their credit. The banks won't help them." Richard smirked. "Make sure the final offer is insulting. I want them to feel it." Maya's hands trembled as she dusted the nightstand. These people were sadistic. They enjoyed the destruction. As she reached for the desk, her elbow accidentally knocked over Richard's coffee cup. Brown liquid spread across important documents. The room went silent. Richard stood up slowly, his face turning red. "What have you done?" Maya grabbed napkins quickly. "I'm so sorry, sir. I'll clean it immediately." "You stupid woman," Richard shouted. "Those are confidential contracts. Do you have any idea what you've just ruined?" The other men watched with amused expressions, entertained by the scene. "I'm sorry," Maya repeated, her voice shaking as she blotted the papers. "It was an accident." "An accident?" Richard stepped closer, towering over her. "You people are all the same. Careless. Incompetent. You can't even perform simple tasks without destroying everything." Maya's cheeks burned with humiliation. She kept her eyes down, cleaning frantically. "Look at me when I'm speaking to you," Richard demanded. She looked up, meeting his cold blue eyes. "You're pathetic," he said slowly, making sure each word landed. "A cleaning lady who probably can't even read. You come into my room, into my space, and you dare to touch my things with your clumsy hands. You're nothing. Do you understand? Nothing." The words cut deeper than any physical blow. Maya felt tears threatening, but she refused to cry. Not here. Not in front of these men who saw her as less than human. "Yes, sir," she whispered. "Get out," Richard said. "And tell your supervisor I want someone competent assigned to this room. You're banned from this floor." Maya gathered her cleaning supplies with shaking hands and left the suite. She made it to the service stairwell before the tears came. She sat on the cold concrete steps and sobbed, releasing weeks of exhaustion, frustration, and pain. She thought about Emma, about the bills piling up, about the eviction notice she'd received last week, about her mother's voice in her memories, telling her she was smart, capable, destined for more than this. But her mother had been wrong. Maya was exactly where life had placed her. Invisible, powerless, nothing. The next day, Patricia called her into the office. "Maya, we received a complaint from Mr. Blackwell. A very serious complaint." Maya nodded, staring at her hands. "He says you were careless and disrespectful, that you ruined important documents and showed no remorse." "That's not true," Maya said quietly. "I apologized immediately. I cleaned everything. He called me names. He humiliated me." Patricia sighed. "Mr. Blackwell is one of our most important guests. He's threatening to leave a negative review and take his business elsewhere. The hotel can't afford that kind of publicity. So you're firing me," Maya said flatly. "Not firing. Reassigning. You'll work in the basement laundry room for the next month. Reduced hours. Consider it a warning." Maya felt her world crumbling. Reduced hours meant less money. Less money meant no rent. No rent meant losing their apartment. Losing Emma's school. Losing everything they'd fought to keep. "I understand," Maya said, standing up. Her voice was empty, defeated. That evening, Maya sat in her tiny apartment while Emma did homework at the kitchen table. The little girl hummed happily, unaware that their world was falling apart. Maya's phone buzzed. Another text from an unknown number. This one made her blood run cold. Hearing about the Costello restaurant situation. Shame what powerful people can do to innocent families. Someone should stop them. Someone who understands what they're saying. Maya stared at the message, her heart pounding. Someone knew. Someone had been watching. But who? Maya didn't sleep that night. The mysterious text message glowed in her mind like a neon sign. Someone knew, she understood those conversations. Someone was watching her. The next morning in the basement laundry room, surrounded by industrial washers and mountains of dirty linens, Maya's phone buzzed again. The Costello family restaurant. Mulberry Street. Tomorrow 2 p.m. Come alone. Maya's hands shook as she folded towels. This was insane. Could be a trap, a setup, or worse. But something deeper pulled at her. A voice that sounded like her mother's, whispering that some moments define who you really are. Saturday afternoon. Maya told Mrs. Chun she needed a few hours for a job interview. She took the train to Little Italy in Manhattan, her heart racing with every mile. Mulberry Street was charming, lined with red-checkered tablecloth restaurants and the smell of fresh bread. She found Costello's easily. The sign was hand-painted, old-world elegant. Inside, the lunch rush was ending. An elderly woman wiped down tables with tired movements. Her face was kind but worn, carrying the weight of worry. A younger man, maybe 40, restocked the bar with mechanical precision. His eyes were hollow. Maya approached hesitantly. "Excuse me, I'm looking for the Costello family." The woman looked up. "I'm Rosa Costello. This is my son, Vincent. How can we help you?" Before Maya could answer, a door in the back opened. A man stepped out, and Maya's breath caught in her throat. He was tall, maybe late 50s, with silver hair slicked back and sharp Italian features. He wore an impeccably tailored black suit. But it was his eyes that stopped her, dark and penetrating, eyes that had seen everything and feared nothing. "You came," he said in perfect English with a slight Italian accent. "Good. I'm Lorenzo Battaglia." The name hit Maya like thunder. Everyone in New York knew that name, whispered in certain circles. Lorenzo Battaglia was rumored to be connected to one of the old Italian families, the kind that operated in shadows, that made problems disappear, that commanded respect through fear and loyalty. "Please sit." Lorenzo gestured to a corner table. "Rosa, Vincent, give us privacy." They disappeared into the kitchen without question. Maya sat, her mind screaming at her to run. "Mr. Battaglia, I don't understand why I'm here." Lorenzo smiled slightly. "You're here because you have something rare in this world. Conscience. And information." He slid a folder across the table. Inside were photos of Maya at the Grandeur, cleaning Richard Blackwell's suite. Time-stamped images showing her in the room during those business meetings. "I have people everywhere," Lorenzo said calmly. "They tell me things. They told me about a cleaning lady who speaks 3 languages, who hears everything but says nothing, who watched Richard Blackwell destroy good people and did nothing because she was afraid." Maya's throat tightened. "I'm nobody. I can't stop men like him." Lorenzo leaned forward. "The Costello family has been in New York for 70 years. Rosa's grandfather built this restaurant with his bare hands. They employ 40 people, feed thousands, give back to this community. Richard Blackwell wants to erase them for profit. Not because he needs the money, but because he enjoys the destruction." "I know," Maya whispered. "I heard everything. Then help us stop him." "How?" "I'm a single mother who cleans hotel rooms. I got demoted for spilling coffee. What can I possibly do?" Lorenzo's eyes hardened. "You can speak. Next week, Blackwell is hosting a private dinner at the Grandeur. Investors, business partners, politicians. He'll make his final presentation about acquiring Costello's, celebrating his victory. You're going to be there. They banned me from that floor. Not as a cleaning lady, as a translator." Maya stared at him. "What?" "One of his translators canceled. I made sure of that. You'll take her place. You'll sit in that room, and when the moment is right, you'll tell everyone exactly what Richard Blackwell said in Italian. What he really thinks. What he really plans. If you're asking me to do this, why do you need me?" Maya asked carefully. You could handle this yourself. Lorenzo smiled coldly. Because I'm a ghost, Maya. If I move against him, it's war. But you're invisible. You're the person they never see. And that's your power. Maya thought of Emma, of their tiny apartment, of everything she could lose. But she also thought of Rose's tired eyes, of families being destroyed, of Richard Blackwell's voice calling her nothing. If you're rooting for Maya to find her courage, take a moment and subscribe to this channel. Because what happens next will change everything. Okay, Maya said quietly. I'll do it. Lorenzo nodded. Good. We have 6 days to prepare you. The next 6 days transformed Maya in ways she never imagined possible. Lorenzo brought in his people. A woman named Sophia taught Maya how to carry herself with confidence, how to walk into a room like she belonged there. Stand tall, shoulders back. Never apologize for taking up space. A man named Marco, who'd worked in corporate espionage for 20 years, coached her on business terminology, on reading the room, on staying calm under pressure. They'll try to intimidate you. Don't break. Remember, you know their secrets. That makes you dangerous. Rosa fed her homemade pasta and told her stories about building something from nothing, about protecting family, about standing up when everyone expects you to stay down. And Lorenzo, he taught her the most important lesson. Power isn't about money or titles, he said one evening as they reviewed the dinner plan. Power is about knowing when to be silent and when to speak. You've been silent your whole life, Maya. Next Friday you speak. Maya practiced her languages until they flowed effortlessly. She studied Richard Blackwell's patterns, his tells, his weaknesses. She memorized every detail of the acquisition plan. On Thursday night, Emma asked her mother why she seemed different. Maya knelt down and hugged her daughter tight. "'Cause I'm remembering who I used to be. Baby. Before life made me forget." Friday arrived like a storm. Patricia from HR called Maya that morning. "We have an unusual request. Mr. Blackwell needs a last-minute translator for a private dinner tonight. Someone recommended you, said you speak Italian and French. Is that true?" Maya's heart hammered. "Yes, that's true. Be in the presidential ballroom at 7 p.m. Wear something professional. And Maya, this is your chance to prove yourself after last month's incident. Don't waste it." At 6:30 p.m., Maya stood in the bathroom of the grandeur wearing a simple but elegant black dress Lorenzo had provided. She barely recognized herself. Her hair was styled, her makeup subtle but transformative. She looked like she belonged in this world. "You can do this," she whispered to her reflection. The presidential ballroom was breathtaking. Crystal chandeliers, white tablecloths, arrangements of orchids that probably cost more than her monthly rent. 20 guests mingled with champagne glasses, the elite of New York business and politics. Richard Blackwell stood at the center like a king holding court, laughing loudly, completely confident in his victory. Maya entered quietly and took her position near the translation equipment. A few guests glanced at her briefly before dismissing her. Just another staff member. Richard began his presentation at 8 p.m. He spoke in English first, charming and polished, explaining his vision for expanding the Castello brand nationwide. He made it sound noble, like he was saving a struggling business. Then he switched to Italian, addressing his European investors with a different tone entirely. Maya translated smoothly through the headsets, her voice steady and professional. But as Richard spoke, his arrogance grew. He started bragging in Italian about how easy it had been to destroy the Castello family, how pathetic they were, how Americans were too sentimental about family businesses. "These dinosaurs don't understand modern business," Richard said in Italian, smirking. "We crushed them like insects. Next week, their signature restaurant becomes a chain burger joint. That's real capitalism." The Italian investors laughed. The American guests, hearing only pleasant English translations through their headsets, smiled and nodded. This was the moment. Maya took a deep breath and switched off the translation feed to the headsets. Then she stood up. "Excuse me, Mr. Blackwell," she said clearly in English. The room went silent. Richard turned, his face showing confusion, then recognition, then anger. He said. "What are you doing here?" I'm translating, Maya said calmly. But I think the English-speaking guests should know what you really said in Italian. Sit down, Richard commanded. You're out of line. Maya didn't sit. You just told your Italian investors that the Costello family were insects you crushed. That you're proud of destroying a 70-year-old family business. That you plan to turn their legacy into a burger joint. You said Americans are too sentimental about family. The room erupted. Guests turned to Richard with shocked expressions. Politicians who'd been smiling suddenly looked uncomfortable. She's lying, Richard said quickly. She's a disgruntled employee I had removed for incompetence. Security. I speak 3 languages, Maya said quietly but firmly. English, Spanish, French, and Italian. I've been cleaning your hotel room for months, Mr. Blackwell. I heard everything. Every meeting. Every plan. Every cruel word. You're nothing, Richard hissed, his face purple with rage. A cleaning lady trying to destroy me with lies. Then a voice came from the back of the room, deep and calm. She's not nothing. Everyone turned. Lorenzo Battaglia stepped into the ballroom, impeccably dressed, commanding immediate attention. 2 men flanked him, solid as mountains. The atmosphere changed instantly. Several guests recognized him. Whispers rippled through the crowd. Lorenzo walked through the ballroom like he owned it, his presence filling every corner. The wealthy guests parted instinctively, their survival instincts recognizing power when it entered a room. Richard's confidence cracked visibly. Mr. Battaglia, this is a private event. Lorenzo smiled without warmth. I was invited by the Costello family. You remember them, Richard? The people you've been destroying? He gestured toward the entrance. Rosa and Vincent Costello walked in, dignified despite their struggles. Rosa held her head high, and Vincent's hollow eyes now burned with quiet determination. Richard's face went pale. This is inappropriate. I'm conducting legitimate business. Legitimate? Lorenzo's voice cut like a blade. Let's discuss legitimate business. He pulled out a document and placed it on the main table. These are the falsified health code violations your people filed against Costello's restaurants. We traced them back to inspectors you bribed. That's fraud. He placed another document down. These are the bank records showing how you manipulated their credit lines through your connections at Manhattan Trust. That's financial manipulation and possibly racketeering. Richard looked around desperately at his guests, many of whom were now edging toward the exits. You can't prove any of this. Maya stepped forward, her fear replaced by righteous anger. I can prove what you said. Every word. Every meeting. I recorded everything on my phone. She held up her device. Lorenzo had taught her to use a recording app weeks ago, preparing for this exact moment. You recorded me without consent? Richard shouted. That's illegal. A man in an expensive suit at one of the tables stood up. He was older, distinguished, with sharp eyes. Actually, Mr. Blackwell, in New York, only one party needs to consent to a recording. Maya consented when she pressed record. I'm Judge Morrison, by the way. I came tonight as your guest, but I'm finding this evening very educational. Richard's world was collapsing in real time. His investors were backing away. Politicians were suddenly very interested in their phones. His carefully constructed empire of intimidation was crumbling. Lorenzo moved closer to Richard, his voice dropping to a whisper that somehow carried through the silent room. You made a mistake, Richard. You thought certain people were invisible, that they didn't matter, that you could destroy families without consequences. I have lawyers, Richard said desperately. I have connections. So do I, Lorenzo replied. But mine are loyal because I treat them with respect, not fear. There's a difference. He turned to address the entire room. The Costello family will keep their restaurants. All charges against them will be dropped. Their credit will be restored. And Mr. Blackwell here will personally fund their expansion as restitution for the damage he caused. Richard's face twisted with rage. I'll never agree to that. Lorenzo's smile disappeared entirely. Then we'll let the authorities handle this. I'm sure the FBI would love to investigate your business practices. Judge Morrison, you know people in the Southern District, don't you? The judge nodded slowly. I do. And I imagine they'd be very interested in these documents. Richard looked trapped, his arrogance replaced by calculation. He was a businessman, after all. He understood when he'd lost. How much? Richard asked bitterly. 3 million, Lorenzo said. Paid to the Costello family within 30 days. Plus a public apology. Plus you sell them back the properties you acquired at exactly what they originally paid. That's robbery, Richard protested weakly. No, Rosa Costello spoke for the first time, her voice strong and clear. That's justice. The room waited. Richard had no moves left. His reputation was destroyed. His schemes were exposed. His only option was damage control. Fine, he said through clenched teeth. You'll have your money. Lorenzo turned to Maya. And Miss Torres here deserves compensation as well. For the emotional distress, the wrongful demotion, the public humiliation. Shall we say $500,000? Maya gasped. That's too much. That's exactly right, Lorenzo said firmly. You risked everything. You stood up when you could have stayed silent. Richard looked at Maya with pure hatred. You're still nothing, he hissed. Money doesn't change what you are. Maya walked up to him, close enough to see the broken pride in his eyes. You're wrong, she said quietly. I was always something. I just forgot for a while. But you reminded me. So thank you, Mr. Blackwell. Thank you for showing me that being invisible doesn't mean being powerless. She turned to the room. I speak 3 languages. I raised a daughter alone. I worked 2 jobs and never gave up. That's more real than anything in this room. And I'm not nothing. I never was. The guests erupted in applause. Even some of Richard's former allies clapped, perhaps recognizing courage when they finally saw it. Patricia from HR stood in the corner, her mouth open in shock. Lorenzo put a hand on Maya's shoulder. Well done. As security escorted Richard Blackwell out of his own event, Maya felt something she hadn't felt in years. Freedom. 18 months later, Maya stood in front of a floor-to-ceiling window in her new office, watching the Chicago skyline turn golden in the afternoon sun. The view still took her breath away sometimes, reminding her of how far she'd come from that tiny basement apartment. Her office wasn't huge, but it was hers. Director of Community Outreach for the Costello Restaurant Group, the brass nameplate on her door read. After the scandal, Rosa and Vincent had expanded their business with Richard's settlement money, opening locations in Chicago, Boston, and Miami. And they'd insisted Maya be part of it. We don't forget the people who fight for us, Rosa had said. Your family now. The job was perfect. Maya used her language skills to connect with immigrant communities, helping Costellos hire people like her, people who needed a chance. She created training programs, advocated for fair wages, and made sure no one in their organization ever felt invisible. Her phone buzzed. Emma's school calling. Hi, Mom. Her daughter's excited voice came through. I got chosen for the debate team. They said my speech about courage was the best one. Maya's eyes filled with happy tears. That's amazing, baby. I'm so proud of you. I wrote about you, Emma said. About how you stood up to that mean man. About how you taught me that speaking up matters. You're going to change the world. Sweetheart, Maya said softly. Just like you, Mom. After hanging up, Maya walked to her desk where a framed photo sat. Her and Emma in front of their new townhouse, both smiling wider than the sun. Next to it was another photo from Rosa's restaurant, the whole Costello family crowded around a table, with Maya and Emma right in the center. A knock on the door interrupted her thoughts. Come in. Lorenzo Battaglia entered, elegant as always in a charcoal suit. He visited Chicago occasionally for business, and they'd maintained an unlikely friendship. How's the Queen of Community Outreach? He asked with a rare smile. Busy, Maya laughed. We're opening 2 new locations next month. I'm hiring 50 people. Good. Lorenzo sat down. I have something for you. He handed her an envelope. Inside was a check that made Maya's eyes widen. What is this? Remember the recordings you made? Lorenzo said. They've been used in 3 federal cases against Blackwell's associates. The government pays rewards for whistleblowers. That's your share. Maya stared at the amount. This is life-changing money. You changed your life already, Lorenzo corrected. This is just confirmation that doing the right thing has value. She looked at him carefully. Why did you really help me back then? You didn't know me. Lorenzo's expression softened slightly. My grandmother was a cleaning lady in Milan. Worked her whole life for families who never learned her name. She told me once that the people who do the hardest work are often the most invisible. I never forgot that. When my people told me about you, about how you heard everything but stayed quiet even though it hurt you, I saw her. I saw dignity. I saw someone worth fighting for. Maya felt her throat tighten. Thank you for seeing me. You saw yourself, Lorenzo said, standing. I just opened the door. You walked through it. After he left, Maya sat alone in her office, thinking about the journey. Richard Blackwell had lost everything. His company dissolved, his reputation destroyed, facing multiple lawsuits and criminal investigations. Last she heard, he was living in a modest apartment in Newark, working as a consultant for a fraction of his former income. She didn't take pleasure in his downfall, but she didn't feel sorry for him either. Some people had to lose everything to learn they were never as powerful as they thought. Her computer pinged with an email. It was from a young woman named Sophia, one of the people Maya had hired last month. A single mother from Guatemala who spoke limited English but had fierce determination in her eyes. The email was simple. Thank you for giving me a chance when no one else would. You changed my life. Maya smiled and typed back. You changed your own life. I just believed in you. As the sun set over Chicago, Maya packed her things. She had to pick up Emma from soccer practice. Then they were having dinner at Mrs. Chen's. The old neighbor had become like a grandmother to Emma, and Maya made sure to visit her regularly, bringing groceries and company. Walking to her car, a nice but practical sedan she'd bought with her settlement money, Maya thought about the girl she used to be. The one who felt invisible, powerless, small. That girl was still inside her. But now she knew the truth. Being underestimated was a superpower. Being invisible meant people revealed who they really were. And speaking up at the right moment could change everything. 3 languages. She whispered to herself, unlocking her car. 3 languages and the courage to use them.